Hello, my name is Gwen and I'm 50 years old. As a parent, the only thing you want for your child is for them to grow up to be good and successful human beings. That's what I wanted for my son too, but I found out in the most horrific way that my son was a monster. Today, I want to share mine and my daughter-in-law's story with you. Let me tell you a little about myself first. I got married too young to my college boyfriend. On paper, we were perfect for each other. We had the same interests, goals, and ideals. We were meant to be, but of course that wasn't the case. I ended up getting pregnant with my son, Brody, as soon as we graduated, so we decided to get married. The next 5 years of my life can only be described as a nightmare. Every single day, my ex-husband would yell at me for ruining his life with my pregnancy. He drank like a fish every single day, yelled at me for hours, fell asleep, and then woke up and acted like he did nothing the previous day. He could not hold down a job, and I struggled to provide for my son, Brody. I finally reached my breaking point when I found out that my ex-husband had been stealing money from me to fund his alcoholism. I took Brody and everything I had and I left my ex-husband. The divorce process was long and painful because my ex refused to let anything go. He even tried to get full custody of Brody and I had to fight him tooth and nail for custody. Needless to say, I did my best to raise Brody to be nothing like his father. When my divorce got finalized, I moved to a different state with Brody to start over. I struggled to find a job, but when I did, I worked hard and gradually got promoted to higher positions. Brody and I were very close because we were all we had, so it was no surprise that Brody chose to go to college near home. At college, Brody met my daughter-in-law, Chelsea. They were really cute together, and they seemed head over heels in love with each other. Chelsea was a very sweet girl, and I got along really well with her. She lived in the college dorms because she came from a different state. But every once in a while, she would stay with Brody and me for a few days. When Brody had classes, but Chelsea didn't, the two of us would go out for movies or to grab a coffee, and we'd talk for hours about nothing and everything. She became an important fixture in both Brody's and my life. So I was beyond happy when the two of them told me that they were getting married 3 years after they graduated. By that time, Brody and Chelsea had long moved out. Brody was the only one who was working, and he provided for both of them. At first, I was really concerned that Chelsea wasn't earning, and I even offered to find her a job, but Brody always adamantly turned me down. He would tell me that Chelsea did not want to work and felt bad turning me down, which was why he was doing it for her. I tried to talk to her about it when Brody was not around, but she'd always shut down and brush me off, so eventually I gave up and just let them be. I could only do so much without being intrusive. Brody made more than enough to support the both of them, and as long as they were able to feed and clothe themselves, I figured there was nothing more for me to say. Around 2 years into their marriage, Brody began to travel for work. He'd be gone for anywhere between a week to 2 months for these trips. Coincidentally, during these trips, along with not seeing Brody, I also would not see Chelsea. She would always be out or busy or too tired to meet me. I never questioned it, but I did think it was odd. Thinking back, I wish I looked into it a little more so I could have stopped Chelsea's suffering sooner, but it really did not seem too fishy to me at that time. I was also busy at work, and I just figured that Chelsea was enjoying her alone time at home. Anyway, one time, Brody had to go to another state for a month because he had some important clients to meet or something. And I decided to pay Chelsea a surprise visit. It had been a little over 3 weeks since Brody left for his trip. But I was free that day and I wanted to spend some time with her. When she opened the door, I was shocked to see her looking so different. She looked malnourished and like she was sick. I tried to act normal so she would at least let me in the house and then brought it up with her. "Oh, hello, Gwen. Is something wrong? I hope everything's all right." "Yeah, everything's fine. I just thought I'd swing by to spend some time with you because Brody's away. I thought that you'd be alone at home so you'd appreciate some company." "Thank you. That's really nice of you. Come in. I don't mean to sound rude or offensive, but are you okay?" "Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I be okay?" "You look really frail and sick. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine." "Should we go to the doctor to make sure you're fine? Because trust me, you really don't look like you are." "Gwen, I really appreciate your concern, but I promise you I'm fine. There's no need to go to the doctor." "But I just haven't eaten in 3 days. That's why I look like this." "What? Why?" "Well, it's the end of the month, so of course this was going to happen. I tried to ration out my allowance, but I couldn't." "What are you talking about? Allowance?" "Yeah, when Brody left, he set me a monthly allowance." "That's insane. What is your allowance?" $100 a month." "What? That's not a livable allowance. Was Brody out of his mind?" "I don't know, but this is what it's usually like whenever he leaves me for extended periods of time." "Is there a reason for this? Any financial issues that I don't know of?" "We're actually doing great. I don't have a history of overspending at all or spending in secret. Brody's very paranoid about money, so he doesn't let me touch any of the money he earns. I don't know why he sets an allowance for me, but I stopped fighting him on it a long time ago. Usually he gives me just enough allowance, so I don't know why this time. Sweetie, this is not normal at all. $100 is not even enough for the week in this economy. Did he not let you at least stock up the pantry and the fridge with essentials?" "No, he usually does the grocery shopping because he doesn't trust me with money." "What? Okay, you know what? We're going to get you some food and then go grocery shopping so you have enough for the next few days, right now." "I don't have any money. I really don't want you to spend any money on me. Brody would not be happy." "Who cares about what he thinks? You look like you're about to faint any second. Let's go." I tried my best to not show Chelsea that I was angry, but on the inside, I was seething. How in the world could Brody give Chelsea such a small allowance? On the way to the restaurant, I asked Chelsea if she tried contacting Brody to ask for more money, and she told me she did, but Brody always blocked her number when he traveled so she wouldn't bother him. I was flabbergasted. Did Brody not care about her at all? $100 barely covered vegetables and some meat, and that would never last past a week. When we got to the restaurant, Chelsea was hesitant to order food at first, but I insisted. And when her food arrived, she ate like a madman. It's only made me feel angrier at Brody. I had raised him to be kind-hearted, and I couldn't help but feel like a failure for not raising him well enough. I couldn't help but wonder when he had suddenly turned into this monster of a man. It stung even more that I praised him so much when in reality he was a horrible person. And even though Chelsea and I were close, I had never been a safe space for her to vent about Brody. I made up my mind at that point to help Chelsea get out of her relationship with Brody and make Brody suffer. I had done enough damage, and the only way to redeem myself was to make sure that Chelsea was taken care of, and Brody regretted everything he'd done to her. When Chelsea was done eating, she looked at me and sheepishly apologized. "I'm so sorry I ate like an animal. I just haven't eaten in a while." "Please, honey, you have nothing to apologize for. The only person who should be apologizing is my idiotic son." good luck getting an apology out of him. Brody doesn't think he could ever be wrong. Since when has this been going on? Brody has always been the sweetest, kindest person. Since when has he become a monster? I don't know about the sweetest or the kindest, but Brody has been like this for a long time, even from before we were married. Really? Wait, why did you get married to him if you knew that this was how he was? I love him. I don't know. I sort of hoped that he'd change. I thought he was just being immature, but I guess that was not the case. When did he start controlling the finances? And does he have anything to do with you not working? Oh yeah, he forced me to quit my job. He told me that I had no reason to work and threatened to leave me if I continued to work. I didn't want that to happen, so I did what he asked me to do. Oh, sweetie. And he's very possessive of his money. He won't spend more than he wants to on me, but he'll spend hundreds of dollars on his video games. Have you talked to him about this? Of course, but every single time he's told me that I could spend money on whatever I wanted if I earn money. But he won't let me work, so I just had to deal with his unfair treatment of me. I can't understand why he's being this way, but even more than that, I can't believe you stuck with him for so long. Well, I haven't worked since I graduated college, and now I don't think I'll ever be able to get a job if I leave Brody. I'll have no way to get an apartment or money to go back to my family. I'm literally stuck with him. If you had the chance to leave him, as in every one of your worries would not exist because you had the resources, would you leave Brody? Absolutely. I'm tired of living like this. I have no friends because I have no money to go out. Brody only buys the most essential food ingredients for a month for me to cook my meals, while he eats out every day. I can't buy myself anything without begging him for the money for it. The other day, I asked him if I could buy some new undergarments, and he fought me on it for an entire hour before giving me the exact amount of money the undergarments cost. I can't believe this has been going on for so long. Why didn't you tell me anything? I was scared of what Brody would do if he found out that I told you. And you always speak so highly of Brody that I thought that you wouldn't believe me. I'm so sorry that I made you feel that way. If it makes you feel any better, I would have believed you completely if you'd come to me before. Now that I know, I'm going to help you out. What do you mean? I have a lawyer friend. He specializes in divorces. He's the one who helped me divorce my pathetic husband. We'll get you away from Brody. You don't have to worry about a place to stay because I'll get you all set up. Really? You would do that for me? But why? Because, honey, you're a wonderful girl. You deserve so much better than my disgusting son. Consider this an apology from my side for you having to deal with him. You may not be related to me by blood, but you're still my daughter, and I will make sure that you live a better life than you're living right now. Thank you so much. I don't know how else to thank you. Just get out of this relationship and live a happier life. I promise I will. I was shocked to hear about how controlling Brody had been, and even more shocked to find out that this had been the case since the start of his relationship with Chelsea. I felt so bad that she had just dealt with his nastiness, but I also understood why she did. She was in a new place, and Brody was the only person she was the closest to. Leaving the one person you knew in a place that was foreign to you was not an easy thing to do. I was glad that she opened up to me because I was going to make sure that she got out of that relationship. After I had bought some groceries for Chelsea, I dropped her off at home. When I got back home, I immediately called my lawyer from when I got divorced, and he referred me to his friend who worked in my city. I had to work fast because Brody was going to be back in a week, and I wanted Chelsea to be safe. I contacted the lawyer that was referred to me. His name is Harris, and we set up a meeting for the next day. I informed Chelsea about it and assured her once again that I would help her out after she divorced Brody. There was no way that I wasn't going to help her out. She was an amazing girl, and she deserved a lot better than my disgusting son. I wanted to call Brody and yell at him for everything he'd done to Chelsea, but I decided to let the law do its job. The next day, Chelsea and I met Harris, who immediately filed for an emergency protective order against Brody. He explained to us that what Brody had been doing was legally considered financial abuse, and so Chelsea needed to get out so that Brody did not hurt or harm her in any way during the divorce process. It took Harris 2 days to get the protective order. I was worried that the judge would not grant it, but Chelsea had provided more than enough proof of Brody's abuse, and I also gave my testimony about how I'd found Chelsea after almost a month of living on the tiny allowance that Brody had given her. All of that worked in favor of Chelsea, and the judge immediately granted her the protective order. Aside from that, I also helped Chelsea find an apartment that she liked. I paid for the entire thing along with a year's rent so that she wouldn't have to worry about it while she had the divorce process going on. I used my connections to help her get a job and also encouraged her to pursue a master's degree. Finally, on the day that Brody was supposed to arrive, I told Chelsea to stay at my place. She couldn't move into her new apartment until the start of the next month, so I offered to let her stay with me until Brody left. Then Harris and I waited for Brody at his place. When Brody walked into the house, he called out for Chelsea, but when he heard no reply, he came towards the living room where he found Harris and me. "Mom, what are you doing here? And who's this? Where's Chelsea?" "Chelsea is at my place, and this is her lawyer, Harris." "Her lawyer? What's going on? Why does she need a lawyer?" "Because she's getting a divorce from you." "Divorce? Ha! Where's she going to go if she divorces me? She has no one to help her out, and she has no money or credit scores." "So, you admit that you've been financially abusing her for years?" "I wouldn't call that abuse. I've read way too many horror stories of men whose wives left them bankrupt because of their spending habits, and I was not going to let that happen to me." "Sure, but giving Chelsea $100 allowance for a month? You don't think that's abusive at all?" "There are people out there that are making it on that amount for 2 months. I was trying to teach Chelsea how to be careful with spending." "That's not teaching her how to spend her money at all. That's just severely restricting her. The people who make it on that amount do it because they have no other way to live. You make $150,000 a year and you don't spend even a quarter of it on Chelsea, and you don't let her work either. That is literally the legal definition of financial abuse." "So what now? Chelsea's going to leave me? Like I said, she has nowhere to go. You're not having any of my money. She just spend it on whatever someone says she should." "Why did you even marry her if this is how you thought of her?" "Because I needed to start a family. I've just been waiting because I needed to fatten up my savings a little more." "When did you become so despicable? And for the record, Gwen has no reason to worry about where she'll go or what job she'll get, because I'm going to help her out with it." "What? You're choosing a stranger over your son?" "She's not a stranger. She has proven to be more of a daughter to me than you have as a son. And she will rise up and live a much better life than you expect." "Please, how's she even going to do that? She's not capable of anything but sitting in the house and looking pretty." "Harris here has something for you." "This is a protection order against you. You have an hour to take all your necessities and move out until your hearing in 30 days. "Move out? This is my house. I own it." "Miss Simmons has shown enough proof of your financial abuse against her, and the judge has approved of a temporary protective order. As such, you will have to leave the house until you are given a date to appear in court within the next 30 days so that the judge can decide if the protective order should be permanent. Whatever issue you may have regarding this, you can take it up in court. Here are the documents stating that you are not allowed near Miss Simmons until 100 yards, and you are not allowed to contact her in any way. If you wish to speak to her, you can contact me. These are also the divorce papers. Sign them within 30 days or the divorce will be finalized when Miss Simmons goes to court for it." "Mom, how could you do this to me? I'm your son. How could you put your son through this?" The real question is, how could you treat Chelsea like that and feel no remorse? Consider this a lesson for you. I'm just teaching you how to be a decent human being. Now grab your things and leave. Don't even try to contact me or ask me for help, because I'm not doing any of that. Brody stared at me dumbfounded, but I told him to hurry and pack his stuff up. Harris and I waited for an hour till Brody was done packing and left only after we saw Brody drive away. I didn't understand why he was so shocked that I could do something against him when he had been actively hurting someone he was supposed to love for years. I was glad that Brody was going to face at least some consequences, but I was worried about whether Chelsea's protective order would be repealed. Brody did try to contest the order, but the judge dismissed it and granted Chelsea a permanent protective order. Brody tried to get me to talk to Chelsea on his behalf many times, but I told him that I would not be doing that. Eventually, I threatened to report him for trying to indirectly contact Chelsea, and he stopped out of fear. The divorce process was long and really hard on Chelsea, but I stood by her side the entire time. Harris was a great lawyer and fought hard to make sure that Chelsea got justice. In the end, Brody was ordered to pay Chelsea a huge amount in compensation for his abuse, and was also ordered to pay her alimony. I was beyond happy that he was made to pay her back. Not only would Chelsea be free, but she'd also be financially secure. She could do all the things she never got to do without having to beg for it. When Chelsea's divorce was finalized, both of us cried with joy and celebrated with dinner at Chelsea's favorite restaurant. About a week after the divorce was finalized and the court orders were made, I was at home when I heard my doorbell ring several times. I instinctively knew that it was Brody standing at the door. I contemplated not answering the door, but eventually did, because I was curious about what he wanted to say. "What are you doing here? I told you that I was not going to help you out at all." "Why did you do this to me? Do you know how much money I've lost in all of this? Do you have any idea about how much money I've had to give Chelsea as compensation, as well as alimony? Why did you choose to ruin my life? You are not only being stingy with your money, but you are also making Chelsea's life miserable. You did not let her work since she graduated college. You threatened to leave her multiple times. You isolated her from her family by forcing her to stay here. Why would I not want you to suffer right now?" "Oh, what? So it's a crime that I loved her and wanted her to be with me?" "That was not a crime. The crime was you purposely making her dependent on you both financially and emotionally, and then taking away her access to everything." "I told you that was not what I was trying to do. Did you even stop to think for a second that she was making this whole thing up?" "Did you or did you not give her a budget of $100 for the month when we were away?" "Yes, but that was only one time." "Lies. Chelsea showed us receipts of you sending her less than the minimum amount needed to survive for whatever time you were away." "I told you this was just my way of teaching her to be financially responsible. I was not abusing her." "Do you even know how I found her? When I met her while you were away, she looked like she was entirely just skin and bones. She looked ghostly white, like she was going to faint any second. Do you know why? Because she had no money for 3 days to buy herself food. She didn't eat for 3 days, and that was after she rationed out the money for the month. You didn't stock up on groceries for her either. She barely ate the entire month and starved for 3 days, all because of you. If she told me you blocked her number. She tried calling you but couldn't get through to you. If I hadn't gone to see her, I don't even want to think about what her state would have been. Don't even try to tell me that you weren't abusing her. You can be in denial for as long as you want, but that will not change the truth." "Whatever. I was right to not give her money anyway. Look at how much she cost me. If I hadn't saved up all these years, I'd be destitute right now." "You are no longer my son. I do not want to see or hear from you ever again. I raised you better than this, and I will not accept any apology you send me. Get out of my face and leave me and Chelsea alone." I slammed the door shut in Brody's face after that. As a mother, that hurt to do, but as a woman, it felt really empowering. I couldn't even begin to describe the amount of disgust I felt when I looked at his face. I couldn't believe that the son I raised turned into an abusive monster. So as a mother, this was my way of correcting that. I was not going to be associated with a man like Brody. God knows how much I struggled to get away from his father, and I was not going to let something like that happen to Chelsea. Chelsea is doing well now. She finally has the freedom to do whatever she wants, and she seems healthier too. I make sure to go over to her place every week with a cooked meal because I'm still paranoid that she isn't eating. Chelsea did struggle a lot initially when she left Brody, and I was worried that she was still struggling, but she wasn't showing me. Thankfully, that isn't the case. She's thriving at her new job, and she's even made new friends. Every week when I see her, she's glowing with happiness, and it makes my heart swell to see her that way. We've become a lot closer now, and she really has become like a daughter to me. She'll finally be traveling to see her family and friends from her hometown this weekend, and she'll be starting her master's degree this fall. I'm happy that she's getting back on her feet. As for Brody, I've been getting updates on him through some relatives. Brody spiraled after Chelsea left. He didn't know what to do with himself since she wasn't there for him to unload his frustrations on. He began to take his frustrations out on his co-workers. He became snappy and rude, which led to a lot of complaints to HR about him, and he got fired from his job. I know he lost his job because he tried to get his alimony payments to Chelsea terminated, or at the very least reduced, but the court denied it because he was capable of finding a job of the same capacity. Brody won't stop complaining to everyone he meets about how his ex-wife and mother were horrible people, and that they ruined his life, and kept degrading us because we were women. A lot of our relatives have distanced themselves from him because they did not feel comfortable listening to him speak so disgustingly of me. When I had been in the right to help Chelsea get away from him, Brody is now completely alone and with no job. Given today's job scene, it'll be a while till he gets another job, but knowing that Chelsea will still be getting money out of him makes me incredibly happy. Today is the 1-year anniversary of Chelsea finally leaving Brody, so I thought I'd share this story with you. It's been hard for me to accept the fact that I have no son anymore, but knowing that I did the right thing, not only for me, but also for Chelsea, makes me feel a lot better about that. I just hope that Brody takes some time to self-reflect and learn from this, but I highly doubt that will happen. Whether Brody changes or not, it wouldn't matter to me. I'm happy with myself, and I found a daughter through this whole thing, and nothing matters anymore. Thanks for listening to my story.